about that kind of, the social messaging about it being a treat is really, really important. And, I'm quite lucky that I grew up, I've lived in France for the last sort of 12 years, where alcohol advertising is actually really heavily sort of monitored, and they can only advertise, there's no advertising. It's called the Elvin law. There's no advertising on sports events for alcohol, and you can't advertise alcohol to be aspirational or romantic or in any way kind of seen as a treat or part of a social structure. The only thing you can advertise is, where the wine comes from and the vineyard and the kind of heritage of it. That's all. You can't use it in any way aspirationally. And so when I come back to the UK, I have that comparison and my kids say it, we're on the tube and they're like, oh my goodness, mummy, like, alcohol's everywhere. And it is. And we're not immune to that kind of messaging. And, and it's and since I've been talking with friends in France about the UK and the US and what's going on with alcohol for women, they've said that they've started to notice, how much drinking there is in American series, that people are watching TV and they're having a glass of wine, and you just don't have that in French culture. Not to say there aren't problems with alcohol, there definitely are, because it's a drug and it's addictive. So, it's still there, but certainly the kind of messaging and, the mummy needs wine. And, I saw something yesterday, which was for a tin of wine, that you could buy from this, and it says for your purse, for your desk, and for, what was it, the other one, for the good days and for the bad or something. And it was like, that's really wrong. You're advocating using alcohol to self-medicate. So there's a lot of work to be done, but I really love that you're interested in this, and I'd love for you to come on our podcast, because it is hugely important for women to see that it does impact on their menstrual health. Another good reason to be sober, really. So
what would you say to a woman who she's been listening to this podcast and she's starting to question some of the messages that she's internalized about alcohol, and starting to think, well, maybe it is having an effect on my period, and the amount of pain that I'm experiencing? What would you say a logical next step would be for her?
Well, I think it's great to take a sort of, be a detective, really, take a sort of an investigative point of view, and just, go day by day and go, right, okay. I will sort of caveat that if someone thinks that they have sort of alcohol dependency, if they are drinking, a lot every day, if they struggle to go a day without alcohol, if they have got physical symptoms, like shaking, like trying to think what else might come up. If you're in any way concerned, you should see your doctor, because there could be withdrawal. It could be very severe for someone that's dependent, so you need help. If you kind of associate as what we call like a grey area drinker, so it's like you don't drink at a wedding and never think about it between times, but you're not kind of drinking heavily throughout the day, for example, then it's just take a day, and see how it feels. Take another day, see how it feels, and just keep that going. If you try and project, right, I'm going to stop for a year, it's incredibly intimidating. So just take it day by day and just go, oh, how does this feel? Like, write a diary, for the start date. How do I feel today? What was hard? What was good? And keep going. Get support. We have a free community that people can join. It's really, really helpful to hear other women's stories and be in connection with other women. and then just keep going day by day, and just recognize that the first month you will be detoxing, so it's not the nicest period. So keep going, you know, after 2 months, how do I feel? What would 3 months feel like? You know, how do I feel? What will 4 months feel like? And just keep that kind of investigative kind of spirit, and note the changes. Really see, like, oh, my skin looks better, like my eyes are brighter, I don't have as much pain when I get my period. Yeah, I mean, that's how I would approach it. Get support, document the changes, and just have an open mind about it.
What do you think about things like Sober January or Stoptober?
I have mixed feelings. I think it's very good if people as a line of inquiry. I mean, it's very good because it's a good excuse for people to say, oh, I'm doing dry Januaries, you know, because it's quite hard to sort of start. It's very good in terms of inquiry, like, how easy is this? How hard is this? You know, can I do it or not? And those are all indicators of perhaps where you are on the dependence scale, because, you know, alcohol dependence, it's not just black and white. You know, you could be very high functioning, doing really well, and still have a drinking problem. I mean, I did, you know, and I don't class myself as an alcoholic, but I certainly had a problem with drinking, and I certainly drank, I binge drank, and I drank to, you know, numb my emotions, etc. I think the difficulty and the kind of problem with month challenges is that people tend to just white knuckle it and, you know, just rely on willpower, and then they get to the end of the month and it's kind of like, oh, I done my goal, and then you just go back to exactly the same habit. And that's coming from sort of personal experience too, because I definitely did that many times, and then it'd be like, oh, I don't have a problem, and then I'd just go back to how I was before. So I think certainly it's a good way of having a bit of inquiry, but look at it as your first milestone, not a goal to achieve, because when you achieve a goal, then you just go back to the same sort of behavior as before. Whereas if it's a milestone, it's kind of like doing a marathon, you know, you're like, yeah, like 1 mile, like keep going kind of thing, you know, 2 miles, 2 months, whatever, keep going. So yeah, I mean, it's good and bad. Okay. And certainly some of the marketing around it is slightly interesting, especially Stoptober, I think, which is for a cancer charity, and then you've got kind of these sort of messages which are don't talk about alcohol and cancer at all. So it's, you know, anything that gets people to investigate and ask questions, I think is great. So
what you're saying is they need to go into it with the right mindset and really look at it as an opportunity to change their habits, rather than just thinking of it as 1 month of white knuckling in it, as you say.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about the community and that you founded, Love Sober.
Yeah, so we have, I mean, Kate and I are both coaches, so we work with one-to-one. I tend to work with people that have already stopped drinking, and now they're it's the what now question. It's like, I've done this, but then it's like the, you know, I want my life to represent this change, you know. We're writing a program for a sober school where which will be very much that sort of mindset and habit change, which will, you know, be available sort of midway through this year. We have the book that's coming out in September, which is kind of a quit lit book for mums, because I think, you know, we've recognized that mums have a lot of stress, a lot of overwhelm, a lot of, you know, we're caretakers, we're looking after everyone else, and we lose that ability to look after ourselves, or never had it. And so it's a really key kind of point and area for women with their drinking. And then we have a free Facebook group, which is great. There's about 250 women all around the world. We focus very much on kind of positive sobriety. So, it's not about sort of abstinence and this being really hard. It's about sort of, what do I get? So, we have Treat Friday. So it's like, okay, what are you going to do as a treat today? Like have a nice bath, or buy yourself some fresh flowers, or meet a friend for coffee, or go to bed early, change the sheets, clean your bed, make yourself have a nice cake, whatever. Like it doesn't have to be that your life is miserable because you don't drink. It's about finding other things to add in. We focus on yoga and health and mental health, and just peer support, helping each other out, telling our stories. There's no shame. It's for sober and sober curious women. So if you haven't stopped drinking, but you kind of think you want to, then you're most welcome to come and blog, and we do a daily check-in. So some people, it's like, it's day one again, and it's like, but you learned something, what did you learn? Let's crack on again. It's fine, and I couldn't count how many day ones I had. I had so many, I first stopped drinking when I was 25 and I'm nearly 40. So yeah, I did, I stopped before I got pregnant with my first child. Then I stopped because I had a very bad sort of period of depression and burnout from work when I was 32. And then I finally stopped when I was 37. So, it's not a path that is linear for many, many people. And that's fine, because you keep learning and you keep just doing the days and you keep understanding something about yourself, and you can always come back and try again, So.
And so if listeners could take one thing away from what you've been saying, what would you want that to be?
Just that we have one precious life, and and there might have been things that suited you at one point in your life, but they don't suit you anymore, and that's okay. And we're allowed to change, and you can change, but you need support. So whatever that looks like, it might not be our group, that's fine. There are so many groups on Facebook. Go on Instagram and, follow #sober or sober life or love sober, and, reach out and connect with people, and the impact on your menstrual health will improve. And I'm so, happy that you're sober and it's helped you, so that's amazing.
So where can listeners find out more about Love Sober? If they want to join the Facebook group, how do they do that?
Well, they can. It's probably easier just to go to the site. So it's www.lovesober.com, and then there's a link to the community. You can join our newsletter. We just do one newsletter a month, which is just sort of a little pep talk, and then kind of what we're up to, who's on the podcast. We have a lot of guests on the podcast, and and then just send us I'm on Instagram, Mandy_love.sober, or our kind of main page is at love.sober.co. So you can just send us a message there, and yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Mandy.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. And I really value what you're doing, and I think it's amazing, and I really, really hope this resonates with people, and I'd love for you to come on the podcast and talk a little bit about that, the sort of the female experience in the female body, and how what we put inside our body can impact on our menstrual health. I think it's fascinating. So thank you.
Thank you. For more inspiring conversations, head over to periodstorypod.com, where we have so many more for you to peruse. If you want help with your menstrual or hormone health, email me on hello@eatlovemove.com to set up a free 30-minute hormone health review. If you like today's show, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast.